Hi soulmates, welcome to another tutorial. In this tutorial I will be sharing with you how to make a senator top and trouser for 6 months old to 2 years old. Now let's just jump right into this tutorial, and these are the following measurements you will need to get started. Now, first of all, you need the shoulder-to-shoulder measurement of the kid, which is 10 inches, and the armhole I am making use of is 6 inches, and the chest is often 22 inches. And the length I am going to be making use of is 15 inches. That is from the shoulder to where I want the top to stop. And the sleeve I am going to be making use of is 6 inches. That is from my shoulder to my half sleeve, which is always before the elbow, is 6 inches. Now, if you want your sleeve to get to your wrists, if you want it to get to the wrist of the kid, you need to use 12 inches. That is the length. And the sleeve opening, that is the opening of the sleeve. If you want it to be at the wrist, you need to measure that. And the one I am working with is the short sleeve, and the opening is 4 inches. Now, to get started, you need to fold your pattern over like this. Now I will take a marginal line at the top of my pattern right here, and I am going to start taking all my measurements. Now from the edge of my pattern, I will take my shoulder to shoulder measurement divided by 2, and I will add ½ inch to it because I am joining this to my sleeve. Now you need to go downwards by ½ inch because you're making this for a child. Now from the folded edge of the pattern, I'm going to be taking 3 inches, which is standard for connecting the shoulder slants. Now I am going to be taking my armhole depth, which I said is 6 inches, or you could just measure your shoulder to shoulder measurement, what you have right there, and place it right here. And this is going to be your armhole depth. And this right here is going to be my chest line. Now I am going to take my chest circumference, which I said is 22, and I will divide it by 4, and I am going to place what I get right there and add ½ inch for seam allowance. Now next thing I'm going to do is to take the length I want for this top, which I said is 15 inches, and I'm going to place 1½ inches for hemming allowance, and I'm just going to go on and connect all the lines. Now we're going to take the measurements we took right here on our chest line on the hem line, and you're just going to place it like this and just connect the lines. Now we're going to go back to the armhole and create our armhole curve. Now find the midpoint of your armhole depth and mark, and you're going to go inwards by ½ inch. And I'm just going to go on and create my armhole curve. For the neckline, I am making use of 2½ inches in width and 2 inches in length, and I will just connect the lines and create my neckline curve. And we are very much done with this front pattern, and I am just going to go on and cut out this pattern. But whatever you do, make sure you do not cut out your front neckline, because we're going to be using the same pattern to cut out for the back pattern. Now for the back pattern, get you a new pattern, and as you can see, my pattern is on fold. Now what I'm going to do first of all is to take my marginal line, because this pattern, once you fold it over, it's no longer equal. Now from my marginal line, I am going to be taking 1½ inches, mark right there, 1½ inches mark. Now I am going to get my front pattern and just place it on that 1½ inch line that I just marked on my pattern. And if you can pin, it will be best for you right now. Now from the edge of your front pattern, you're going to take 1.5 inches all the way from the armhole to the neckline. Take 1.5 inches from this edge of your pattern. Now remember, we used 2.5 inches for the width of this front neckline. We're also going to place that 2.5 inches for the width of the back neckline, so it would match. Now I am just going to retrace the lines and retrace my front pattern on my back pattern. Now next thing I'm going to do is to place in my back neckline length, and as you can see, I am using the length of 1 inch, and I just connected my neckline curve, and I will just cut. And now I will cut out the neckline of the front, and we are very much done with the front pattern and the back pattern. And now there is something called the yoke, and I'm going to show you how to make the yoke pattern for kids. And let's just move to the next phase. Now get a new pattern and place your back pattern on this new pattern. Now on the armhole part, I am just going to take 4 inches from the shoulder down, and on this other part I would also take 4 inches from the shoulder down, and I'll just retrace this pattern on this new pattern. As you can see, now remove your pattern and just connect your lines. And do not forget to place 1/2 inch at the bottom for joining or folding in. And here is a finished look of the pattern. You can see how beautiful and perfect it is. Now the next thing we're going to do is to make our sleeve pattern. Now to get your calves height, you need the chest circumference you are working with, and I said mine is 22 divided by 12, which is standard for getting your calves height, plus 1/2 inch is equals to 2.3, which I would approximate to 2.5. Now before you start, you need to make sure that your pattern is on fold. As you can see, mine is on fold. Now you need to measure your armhole depth. Now the armhole depth I am working with is being measured right now, and this is what I will place on my pattern. Now I am going to place my armhole depth right here at the top of my pattern, and I'm going to also add 1/2 inch for sewing allowance. Now you need to measure that calves height you got that we just calculated, which I said mine is 2.5, and that is what I just marked right now on my pattern. And I'm going to measure whatever it is I have right here at the top of my pattern. I'll place it right here on my calves height line. Now I'm just creating my sleeve slant, and next thing you're going to do right now is to place in your sleeve length, which I said mine is 6.5, and I'm going to add hemming allowance to it, 1 inch for hemming allowance, and also place in my sleeve opening, which I said is 4 inches, and don't forget to add 1 inch for sewing allowance. And I'm just going to go on and cut the sleeve out. And we are done with the sleeve pattern. You can see how easy that is. Now we are done with the top, and we're going to move to the trouser. And for the trouser, these are the measurements you would need. And the waist measurement I am working with is 22 inches. The hip, around the hip is 22. The length of the trouser is 15.5. And the opening of the trouser is 5.5. This is what I mean by opening. I mean the bottom part of the trouser, where the leg passes through, is the opening. Now the crotch depth I am working with is 5.5. You can also divide the hip circumference by 4, and it will also give you your crotch depth. Now when I say crotch depth, this is what I mean by crotch depth. Your waist to this part of your jean or trouser is the crotch depth. So The next measurement you need is the thigh, which is 7.5, but it is 15 inches. The circumference of the thigh is 15 inches and divided by 2 is 7.5, because your thigh circumference has to be divided by 2. And here is how you measure the thigh. You can get your kid a trouser or jean or whatever and just measure the circumference like this. Just measure it over and under like this. And when measuring, you need to make sure that you give a lot of freedom and allowance, because these kids don't need to wear anything tight on them because they are still growing and they still wear diapers. So they need to have a lot of freedom around their legs. And you can as well measure their clothes like this too. Now, to get this trouser pattern started, we're going to place a marginal line on our pattern, and because we're going to be adding elastic band to the waist, this is what I mean by elastic band. As you can see, it has to be stretchy because these kids are growing and they still wear diapers. So you're going to be adding 2.5, placing 2.5 inches on your pattern for folding in for elastic. Now I will take my waist circumference divided by 4, and one important thing you need to know is that this trouser we are making would have no opening at the side. As you can see, this is what I am trying to imitate. This one also has no opening at the side. You can see the sides are closed. So I am going to be making this one pattern, and it is going to be what I'm going to use to cut for the front and also the back. So I'm going to add seam allowance from the waist all the way down to the full length of the trouser. Now that I am done adding my waist circumference, I will add 1 inch for sewing allowance. Now, next thing I'm going to do is to take my crotch depth. Now, for the crotch depth, I already said you can use your hip circumference, which is 22, divided by 4, and that will give you your crotch depth. And that is what I am placing right there as my crotch depth. Now, this new line is going to serve as my thigh line. And on that line, I will take my thigh circumference, which I already told you will be divided by 2. Now, once you have connected that line all the way up to your waist, you are going to take 2 inches for crotch allowance. As you can see, I just took 2 inches for crotch allowance. Now, I am going to measure and place the length I want for my trouser, which I said is 15 inches, and I am adding 2 inches for hemming allowance, and I will just connect my lines. Now what I'm doing now is I am placing my leg opening on the bottom of my trouser, and remember to add your 1 inch for sewing allowance and just connect your line like this. Now what you're going to do is to find the midpoint from your thigh to your length and go inwards by ½ inch and just create a curve like this from your thigh all the way to the bottom of your trouser. And this is going to be what your trouser should look like once you're done making your pattern. Now from your thigh line, go upwards by 3 inches or 2.5 inches, and we're just going to create a curve all the way from the thigh line to that 3 inches. And our trouser pattern is done. Isn't that very easy and simple? And next thing we're going to do is to cut this pattern out. Now you have to note that when cutting this on your fabric, the straight part of this pattern has to be on fold on your fabric. Now I am going to show you what I mean when I cut this out on my fabric. Now as you can see, I have cut all patterns on my fabric, and here is my front pattern, and you can see that I placed the center front on folds to cut on my fabric, and I have one piece when I open my fabric. And my back, I did the same thing. I placed my pattern on fold, and my fabric is also on fold, and when you open it up, you have one piece for the back. And this is my back yoke. As you can see, the pattern is on fold, the fabric is also on fold, and when you open it up, you have one single piece. And here is my trouser pattern. I just placed my pattern on my folded fabric and I just cut it out as it is. Now I'm just going to notch this 2.5 inches for elastic band, and I'm also going to notch the hemming bottom allowance, and I'm just going to remove my pattern so you can see the full piece of the trouser. As you can see, the sides of my pants are folded and they are not open, and all you need is just 2 pieces of your trousers. And here is the sleeve. All I did was place my sleeve pattern folded on my fabric, and I left seam allowance at the top to join to my top. And that is all, guys. Stick around for the finishing part of this video. In another video, I will be showing you how to sew and put your trouser and top together, and I'll be seeing you in more exciting videos. See ya.